Thank you, folks. First of all, my name is Ryan Lane, and I am running for Cape St. Francis. That is the right district. And I'm very proud to say that I am representing the NL Alliance in that district. But before I say anything else, I want to say a couple things off. First thing I want to say is a big thank you to Graydon, actually. I had considered running as an independent candidate previously. But once I saw what Graydon and the others who arranged the entity known as NL Alliance did, it certainly aligned very closely with what I personally believed in. So I want to say a big thank you, because not very many people have the courage of their convictions in the way that you certainly have. I want to thank you very much for getting this entity going. It's something that's desperately needed in the province, and I think that people are going to support us because it's what people want right now. They want something different for sure. So I ended up here, I guess, because of three main reasons. As Graydon mentioned, and if anyone might recognize me from when I'd run previously or been involved in other things, but this time around, a couple of main things really stood out for me that brought me to where I am right now. The first one is the fact that NL Alliance is nonpartisan, and I cannot tell you how much that means to me and how much I think that is so desperately needed in the House right now. There is little doubt from anyone who has been in the House and watched any what they call debate or any conversations between the two leading parties, we'll call them, the red and blue. They spend most of their time slinging mud at each other and doing that sort of stuff. Whatever it is, they're not talking about the things that need to be talked about. It's often used as a deflection tactic to get away from whatever it is the issue of the day that actually needs to be discussed. So when I found out, for example, that NL Alliance was indeed a nonpartisan entity, that was one of the major selling points for me, one of the main reasons why I was glad to be on board. So I want to say, first of all, that is fantastic, and I think that the people of Newfoundland and Labrador are really tired of that partisan politics, and they're going to be happy to have an opportunity to vote for some people who are not interested in that sort of foolishness. So the second thing that sort of brought me here, or I was interested in here, is that being involved in the past, I've worked for government, I've helped candidates, I've run myself previously, and I've been paying attention for a while. One of the things that you get to learn pretty quickly, especially when you work for government, is that we've been doing things pretty much the same for quite some time now, and it isn't working anymore. We've reached the point where trying the same solutions to the same old problems isn't getting us anywhere. What we need to change how we're doing things. We need it to evolve. Change is a word that everybody uses and can mean good or bad or whatever, but what we need is our structure, our focus, our operations to evolve to reflect the needs of Newfoundland and Labrador right now. It's the easiest explanation for what I want to be involved in, is the evolution of our government to be what it needs to be to suit the people of the province. Because right now it isn't, and it hasn't been for a while. And no matter what priorities people put forward and that kind of stuff, when it comes down to the end of the day, they're not only representing themselves, they are often representing a party behind them, and that party's interests tend to supersede what the district might want or what is in the best interests of the province. You only need to point to things like Muskrat Falls is the perfect example of that. So I think it's about time we moved ahead. We evolved our state of government to something that really represented what we need as a people. So the third thing that I just want to briefly mention that sort of brought me here today is that I'm glad to say that my wife Sheila and I have a new addition to our family. We have an 8-month-old. And George is his name, and I thought I was kind of done with politics, to be honest. I had sort of, like many people, resolved myself to I don't know if I want to put myself through that anymore, because it's a difficult task, and I take my hat off to anybody who puts their name on a ballot. It is one of the most difficult things I've ever done. And I kind of resolved to the fact that I wasn't going to do it anymore. I was going to help if people needed help, if it was someone that I thought needed support, but I was probably not going to do it again. And then 8 months ago, we ended up with a new addition. And I can tell you that in my 42 years of living in Newfoundland and Labrador, it has been a frustrating time and difficult in terms of finding employment and do I stay or do I work away or what is it that makes it work for me. Glad to say I've been able to stay. It's been difficult from time to time, but I've made it here. But far too often That's not the case. I have many friends I went to high school with who don't work here, don't live here, moved away long ago because they didn't see the opportunity to stay. I'm glad that I did. They didn't. What I want is that by the time George is old enough to go to work, that he has a job. That there's a job for him in this province that means something for him, that there's a culture and an environment and an economy that still exists so that when he's of age, he doesn't have to look back at me and say, what were you doing? Like, why didn't you do something about this? Why were you sitting around doing nothing while all these things were collapsing around us? So, in those three reasons basically encompass my main drives for being part of this organization, and I have to say I'm pretty excited about it, and no matter what the outcome, I'm absolutely proud that I can stand here today and be part of this group. Thank you. Thank you.